Hello, Internet. I see a few people joining us in Twitch right now, which is fantastic. Welcome to another Shopify AMA with 2H Media in partnership with Shopify. I am excited to be here today, helping you prepare for Black Friday, Cyber Monday. If you're just joining us for the first time, I'll give you an explanation of how this works. Essentially, what we're doing is we are answering questions from the 2H Media board on the Shopify forum in real time on Twitch, helping you get prepared for Black Friday, Cyber Monday. The way this is going to work is I am going to go through the questions on the Shopify forum one at a time and answer those questions. And when we get through all the questions, I will give it a few minutes to see if there's any questions coming in on Twitch and then wrap up the stream. If we get a lot of questions and you want your questions to be prioritized, the best way to do that is to post your question to the 2H Media Q&A board on the Shopify forums. I've just posted a link to that in the Twitch chat. Once again, the topic for today is preparing for Black Friday, Cyber Monday. And I'm Aaron from 2H Media. I'm putting this stream on in collaboration with Shopify, and the goal is for us to help you prepare for your Black Friday, Cyber Monday by answering your burning questions. I see a few questions in the Shopify forum on the board. Once again, if you're new to this, best way to get your questions answered is to go to the Shopify forums, post a question to the 2H Media AMA board. I'll be prioritizing questions on the forum over questions in the Twitch chat, and I have posted a link to the forum in the Twitch chat. With that said, I see quite a few of you watching the stream already. So I'm going to go ahead and dive in and start answering my first question. So here we go. If I switch to my screen capture, you should see this is what the Shopify forum looks like. And I'm just going to be answering these questions bottom to top. So question number 1, preparing for BFCM in the UK. This comes from Ornier. Hi. We have an online Herbalife supplement shop targeted for UK customers with UK products. You can see it at that link, which we're not going to go to. And what is recommended for UK-based marketing, ramp-up, and campaign? Should we run multiple campaigns for different lines of products? What are your suggestions for media preparation for these dates for UK? Is it different than US? So there's a couple of questions in there. Question 1 is, would you make different recommendations for a UK agency, for a UK e-commerce store versus a US e-commerce store when it comes to Black Friday, Cyber Monday? And then question 2 is, should we run multiple campaigns for different lines of products? And so I'll tackle those questions one at a time. So question number 1, what are the differences for a UK e-commerce store in terms of Black Friday, Cyber Monday compared to a US store? I will be honest, I'm a North American-based e-commerce expert, so I'm in Canada. Most of my work is with Canadian and US businesses. With that said, I wouldn't expect any fundamental cultural differences that are going to change how you should approach Black Friday, Cyber Monday. As sales go, Black Friday, Cyber Monday has been huge for a long time, and it's gotten huge in the e-commerce space in a way that is relatively global. It's not, it's not really, if it ever was, it's not anymore tied to like specific cultural touchstones that are going to especially change from market to market, particularly in English-speaking markets. There may be markets around the world that have just completely different sales cycles that I don't understand at all. To my knowledge, the UK market isn't one of them. So in terms of preparing for Black Friday, Cyber Monday, if you're a UK-based business versus a North American-based business, I wouldn't recommend any major differences in how you approach that sale. If you're still doing the sale, it's going to be the same advice I give to everyone else, which is start really early, get your planning done as early as possible, ramp up your advertising prior to the sale, be prepared to wind down your advertising during the sale when the ad rates get really competitive, and then focus on things like your email marketing and your follow-ups. And that's going to be true whether you're in North America or the UK. In terms of running multiple campaigns for different lines of products, that's a really interesting question. There was a network error. I'm hoping that was just on the viewing end of my stream and not on the streaming end of my stream. Just a real quick check. If someone could let me know in the chat whether you guys can still hear me okay, and then I'll get back to answering the question. I do see quite a few viewers this time, which is great. Okay. I'm not seeing word either way in the chat, so I'm just going to dive in rather than leave it a bunch of dead space. So again, the question is, should we run multiple campaigns for different lines of products? And the short answer is yes. The longer answer is there's a bit more nuance to it during Black Friday, Cyber Monday when you're doing a big sale like this. Generally speaking, you should always run different campaigns for different lines of products. When you run a sale or when you run an advertising campaign, you want continuity in the customer journey. The idea being, if you're selling kitchen appliances and I click on an ad for a stand mixer and I am taken to your webpage and I'm on the home page, I'm not on the product page for that stand mixer. And now there's all these products available and I'm not necessarily seeing the stand mixer that I clicked on the ad for, I'm much less likely to actually convert into a customer because you didn't send me to the page I was expecting when I clicked that ad. Whereas if you run campaigns for all the individual products on your store and you direct those campaigns to land on the appropriate product pages, you're doing a lot to eliminate clicks and create continuity in that customer journey. So you're going to have better luck making those ads perform. With Black Friday, Cyber Monday, there's a little bit more nuance to it than that. So, like, broadly speaking, per product campaigns generally probably still make a lot of sense. But again, in my hypothetical example where you're selling kitchen appliances, maybe I'm just looking to outfit my kitchen. I'm looking for a gift for someone who really likes to cook. I'm looking for something in that space, but not necessarily a specific product. I don't know that I want a stand mixer. I just know that I want some kind of kitchen gadget that's going to make my life easier. Well, maybe I'm just doing a search for kitchen appliance sales. And so in those cases, when there's a big sale event like this, it might make sense to have a more general campaign that runs concurrently with your individual product campaigns. And that general campaign should take you to the landing page for your full Black Friday, Cyber Monday sale. A lot of Shopify stores neglect their collection pages. A lot of people don't build specific collections for specific sales, and a lot of people don't build out those collection pages enough because, with Online Store 2.0, you can build your collection page out to be as elaborate as any other page on the store. So you can build really nice, really engaging collection pages for your sales and use those as the landing page for an overall Black Friday, Cyber Monday advertising campaign that is focused around the collection, the sale, rather than an individual product. So my advice would be yes and. Should you run multiple campaigns for different lines of products? Yes, you should run campaigns for each line of products. And you should consider running a campaign for the sale itself and directing people to the collection page for that specific campaign. Direct people to the product pages for the individual per product campaigns. That was a great question. I'm going to move on to the next one. And again, because I've seen a few people filter in and out, I'm just going to remind you again, if you are new to the stream, if you're just joining us for the first time, or maybe you've been here before and need a reminder, the way we do this is I go to the Shopify 2H Media AMA board on the Shopify forums, which I will show on screen now. And what I do is I go through these questions one at a time. I answer them live on stream. And then if there's any time left over at the end of the stream, once I'm done answering these questions, then I will open it up to questions in the Twitch chat, but I do prioritize the ones on the forum first. So if you want to have your questions answered, the best thing to do is post those questions on this board on the Shopify forum. I'm going to put a link to that in chat again now. And I'll also mention, if you've got an important question and you can't stick around for the full stream, get that question onto the forum, because I'm going to be answering all of these during this live stream. And we will also be uploading the recording of the live stream to YouTube after the fact. I will be answering these questions on the forum individually with a summary of what I said in the stream and posting a link to where you can watch the full answer on the YouTube video. So, whether you're able to stick around or not, if you've got burning questions for us, make sure you get those onto the Shopify forum on this AMA board, because that's where I'm going to be prioritizing my answers, and that's where the answers are going to continue to live once this stream ends. So, with that said, let's dive in and answer another question. This question is how to get people to look at my website, and this comes from Hlet, H-L-E-T. I'm not going to pronounce that right, so I apologize for that. But it's a good question. How do I get customers to my website? I.e., what can I do? That's a super broad question. It's a valid question, but it's a broad question. So it's tough to answer that question with any kind of accuracy without knowing where you are in your business. So, broadly speaking, e-commerce is a volume game. When we talk about the best converting e-commerce websites in the world, we're aiming for between a 1% and a 3% conversion rate, with 3% being putting you in the top percentile of e-commerce stores. You're doing a really, really good job. So if you imagine that for every 100 customers you push to your website, you're only converting maximum 3 of those into customers, you need to push a lot of volume into that site in order for it to generate serious revenue. So this is a lot of times the right place to be focused. And the answer really depends on what your resources are, right? The only way you can get customers onto your site is by leveraging your resources. We like to compare an e-commerce store to a physical location. With a physical store, location is everything, right? If you can be on the main street with tons of foot traffic, people are going to stop by on their way to work, grab a bagel, whatever it may be. If you're selling the right product to the right crowd, you're in front of your audience, your business is going to be more successful than if you are down a side street, away from everything. No one knows how to find your location. No one knows you're there. You're missing out on that foot traffic. One of the difficult realities of e-commerce is that there is no physical storefront. You're not getting that foot traffic. And so we don't have the same advantages that a physical location might if their location is really good. In e-commerce, there's a misconception that if you build it, they will come. And a lot of the time you will build it and it will sit there in obscurity on this hidden page of the internet that no one knows is there because they're not searching for it. So if you want to get traffic to your online store as a business owner, you're responsible for driving that traffic yourself. And there's really only a few ways you can do this. You can leverage one of two things. You can leverage money, you can leverage time, or you can leverage some combination of the two. If you have lots of money and a business that you're really confident in, you are going to be able to build your online presence a lot faster than anyone else. that's a tough reality of the e-commerce world. And this is where you see large companies and big brands spin up new e-commerce websites and they're really successful really fast. It's because they have deep pockets which they can use to get that website in front of a lot of people very quickly. So if you have an established business, you've got existing revenue streams, you've got lots of financial resources, and you're looking to drive traffic to your website in a hurry, the best things you can do, bar none, are paid ads and sponsorships. Depending on the type of product you are selling, there's different areas where you will want to focus. Broadly speaking, if your product is closer to a commodity, if your product is something that people are very aware of, they're in market for, it's been established for a long time, and you just sell a great version of it, then one of the best things you can do is just run Google ads. Search ads, because if people are already going online, typing into a search engine, such and such product, and hitting enter, you want to appear in those search results. And one of the best guaranteed ways to appear in those search results is to just run ads on the search engine platform. That's going to be one of the best ways you can drive traffic. On the other hand, if your product is more novel and new, and is something that you need to make people aware of as even a possibility before they're likely to purchase it, then you might have better luck paying for ads on social media platforms or paying for sponsorships with relevant media personalities. That sponsorship opportunity can be super expensive, so you really, really have to have deep pockets and know your audience in order for that to make sense. So broadly speaking, for businesses that are kind of at the middle of their journey, where you've got deeper pockets than a startup, but you don't have the true depth of resources that like a really established household name would have, your best bets are going to be social media ads or Google ads. And really that split depends on the Google ads are great if people are in market and looking. The social media ads are great if you need to bring awareness to your product to an audience that has no idea it exists in the first place. In addition to that, there are more organic ways that you can drive traffic to your website. A big one that's really impactful but takes a long time to work is search engine optimization. Broadly speaking, we say that the only businesses that should be focused on SEO are businesses that are already running ads, because it will make more sense for your business to run ads before it will make sense for you to run SEO. SEO is a great long-term strategy, but in order for that to be sustainable and make sense, it's important to have that quick revenue coming in and filling back up your resources. So when we look at like the ideal journey for a company, if you've got some budget, you should be starting up your paid ads, whether that's on search or social media, depends on kind of your product. And then once that's up and running, your next focus should be on search engine optimization. It should be on SEO, building out your online presence so your website is easier to find, doing a backlinking strategy, focusing on the structure of your pages, making sure that's all well set up. And if you're working with an ads agency that is responsible and accountable to you, they're going to be giving you a lot of insight into how your website is performing in relation to your ads. And that insight also enables you to do a better job search engine optimizing your website as well. So these things kind of go hand in hand. We always say anyone who's looking at SEO should have a well-oiled advertising machine in place before they dive into that. And then those are some of your main options for driving traffic to your website. Get your ads up, get your SEO up, and then wait for the views to come in. Those are some of the best, most impactful things you can do. There's a lot you can do to recapture our audience in terms of like email marketing and such to like bring customers back, but that for driving initial traffic, ads and SEO are your best options. If you are a smaller business, if you're not at the stage yet where you have deep pockets and you can afford search engine optimization and ads, you need to make every dollar count. You're still going to need some advertising budget in order to drive traffic to your website. It's very, very difficult to drive traffic to a store for $0. You just have to get really smart about where those dollars are going. So social media is one thing you can do to drive traffic to your website. Unless you're already really good at social media, it's probably not going to work for you. Most of the people who are able to build a brand through social media are able to do so because they're already really locked into that ecosystem. They're posting every day in their personal life. They're used to being on the platform. If growing your business through social media sounds really difficult for you, it's probably going to be really difficult for you, and you're probably going to have limited success. So social media as a free, organic way to build a business is great if you happen to fit into the very specific niche of business owner where that is already your comfort zone and you know what you're doing. If you look at it and you say, yeah, I can build a business on social media, I have no problem getting 1 million followers, I've done it before, I know what I'm doing, then great. Like that's the path for you. That is a fantastic early method of driving traffic to your business with a very limited budget if you know what you're doing and you have the time to dedicate to using the platform every day and building that following. Because what you're going to see as a common trend is, as I mentioned earlier, you need to leverage either money or time. And if you're trying to build your audience and drive traffic to your website without spending a lot of money, you're going to need to rely on activities that take a lot of your time in order to get them off the ground. Social media being one of those. You need to be posting every day, multiple times a day, across a lot of different platforms. And that requires you to set time as a business owner, or set time aside as a business owner in order to be on top of those things and treat that as your full-time job. Some other options for driving traffic that are great for small businesses, anything you can do to build a reputation in your local community is fantastic. If you sell unique products, so if you're not drop shipping, you're not white labeling, if you're selling something that you actually produce, that's going to give you a huge leg up. It's much easier to build an e-commerce brand if your product is unique to your business than if you're just reselling someone else's product. In that case, one of the things you can do is try to get your product into local stores. One of the best things you can do as a small business owner, say you sell food. You know, I've worked with a lot of small businesses that are honey producers, and they're branching into e-commerce. One of the best ways they can get off the ground and get some reputation in the local community is approaching restaurants and small grocery stores and trying to get their products sold in store, because number one, they can generate a little bit of revenue through those sales, and number two, it helps them become a household name in their community, which is going to strengthen some of the other efforts that they're putting their time into week after week after week. Another great thing that you can do is markets and trade shows. It's important not to overlook those. And this is where I said, you're still gonna have to spend some money. You just have to make all those dollars count. Take a look at what markets and trade shows are available in your area. Try to find the ones that have the smallest booth sizes, lowest cost for a booth. You don't need to spend thousands and thousands and thousands of dollars to get a foot in the door, but if you can spend a few $100s and get a table at your local farmer's market, that can be a great way to build an audience within your local community, generate some revenue through direct sales, and make sure every single person that you're talking to at that market or trade show, whether they make an order or not, gets a business card or a coupon card or something that's going to drive them to your website for future purchases. Because if you can build a rapport with your audience through those local direct sales, that's going to be a great way to build a core audience that's going to come visit your website and purchase those products from you. In a sense that they're a much warmer lead than someone who's just stumbling onto your website on the internet. So, the question was, how do I get customers for my website? What can I do? If you've got really deep pockets, spend those resources, spend your money on ads and SEO. If you are a small business, you're just starting out, you've got lots of time, but not as much money, spend your efforts directing local customers to your website through traditional marketing efforts. Visit businesses, try to get your product on the shelf, go to markets and trade shows, and try to build a relationship with your customers. Those are going to be some of the best ways you can drive traffic to your website. And then again, the other option is if you are a social media all-star and you know how to build a following there and you're confident and comfortable on the platform, absolutely focus on social media. That's a great way to get a business off the ground if you have that skill set unlocked. I'm going to dive into another question. Before I do, I see we are getting another turnover of viewers on the stream. So I'll just remind anyone who's showing up, we are answering questions on the 2H Media AMA board on the Shopify forum. We're doing it live here on Twitch in collaboration with Shopify. I'll post the link to the forum again in the Twitch chat. If you've got questions for me, best thing to do is click that link, head to the Shopify forum, post your question, and then I'm going to try to get to that before the end of this stream. With that said, I'll try to keep these reminders a little shorter than my first couple because I don't want to bore our viewers that have been here with us since the beginning of the stream too much. So we're going to dive right into our next question, which is recommendations for Q4 if your business or if your product isn't seasonal. Recommendations for Q4 if your product isn't seasonal. This comes from Imminence? Sorry if I'm pronouncing that wrong. Tips for making the most of Black Friday and Q4 if your product isn't giftable for the holidays. For example, we are a wedding gift. That is a really good question. My instinct is to say everyone loves a sale. So there's no reason why a non-seasonal product can't be put on sale for Black Friday, Cyber Monday. If you sell wedding gift, using the example from the question, your messaging just may need to change. There's going to be some number of customers that are in market right now. They've got a wedding coming up, and it is the right time for them to buy a gift. I had some friends that got married in November a few years back, so they would have been right in the kind of market that we're talking about. You know, it would have been perfect timing. So you're going to get some number of customers that are just going to go, oh, hey, you're running a Black Friday, Cyber Monday sale. I've got a wedding coming up. This is great. But that's not going to be the widest possible market for your business. So in that case, I would consider the language you're using in your campaign, the language you're using in your marketing efforts. Maybe try to get ahead of some of these purchases. You know, one of the things, the holidays can be an expensive time of year. It can be a difficult time of year financially. I know in some years that my partner and I, by the time we've purchased all the gifts for our two girls, have been looking at our bank accounts going, whoa, what happened? What did we do? And one of the ways we get ahead of that as a household, and we keep our finances on track and make sure that our girls have wonderful Christmases, is we're thinking about it all year round. We keep an eye out for sales throughout the year. If we see something that we think is perfect for one of our girls, and it's a really good deal, we look at it and we go, you know what? Christmas isn't for another 6 months, but let's grab that now. Let's put that in a closet, and then when December rolls around, we're going to be really glad that we have a bunch of our Christmas shopping done well in advance, so we're not breaking the bank all at once. Getting ahead of that and capturing that sale has been really good for us. I think there's an argument to be made that if you're selling wedding gifts, weddings are typically booked many, many months in advance. And so there's no reason why people couldn't purchase a gift for a July wedding during Black Friday, Cyber Monday. Even though we're months out, if you can get people to visit the store and purchase their gifts in advance, everyone kind of wins. You're gonna drive more traffic to your sales. It's gonna be good for you. They're gonna get a better price on those wedding gifts than they would trying to purchase them closer to the date. I would consider running some campaigns around, hey, don't leave it to the last minute. Get this done early. Get that locked in. It's going to be great for your peace of mind. You're going to get a better deal. Get creative in your advertising copy to try to push people into that sale. Broadly speaking, we prefer to work with businesses that don't have a seasonal product. If you have a product that's in demand all year round, you're going to find search engine ads much more effective than if your product is highly seasonal. Highly seasonal products are tricky because you're going to end up competing in a very expensive time to run ads. You know, if you run a holiday gift business specifically, if you know that like Christmas is your time of year when you have to get all of your sales in, ads are going to be really tough for you because there's going to be a lot of other businesses that are trying to ramp up their sales at the same time, and so you're going to be competing for that ad spend really aggressively, and it's going to be tough. It's going to really hit your wallet. Whereas if your business is relevant all year round and your product isn't tied to one time of year, then that's a huge advantage, because you can build a long-term marketing strategy where you're investing in ads all year round and kind of riding the waves of the sales rather than being super, super dependent on them. So the short answer is, if your product isn't giftable for the holidays, I don't think there's any reason why you can't still enjoy Black Friday, Cyber Monday. I just wouldn't focus my messaging around holiday gifting. Just focus on the great value of the sale. If you know that you're out of season for your product and people are more likely to want to purchase months down the line when Black Friday, Cyber Monday isn't around, you have two options. One is you can focus your messaging for Black Friday, Cyber Monday around getting in on the sale while it's here and getting ahead of that purchase so that you can just relax later on and not have to worry about it. And number two, this may be a bit of a hot take, but not everyone needs to participate in Black Friday, Cyber Monday. Not everyone needs to jump on this sale. You might have better luck running your own sale at a time of year that's more appropriate for your business. And there is some upside to doing that. It really depends on your audience. It depends on your product and how you're positioned. But if you have a following that is engaging with your content, and you're going to have to really think about this and know your audience, if you can get people hyped around a sale that isn't tied to an event that everyone else is doing, one of the huge advantages you're going to have is that you can run ads for that sale during a time of year when you're not competing with everyone else's sale ads. And this is one of the big challenges of Black Friday, Cyber Monday, is that typically when you're competing in the market, you're competing for your audience's dollars, and you're primarily competing against other businesses in your industry, in your niche. That's true to an extent. You're always competing for people's dollars against every other industry as well, because as consumers, we have limited budget that we can spend day to day, week to week, month to month. And so you have to think about the competition in your market, and you have to be aware that you're also competing for people's budget against everything else in their life that might be a priority. That's even more true during big cross-market sales like Black Friday, Cyber Monday. Every business that is selling direct-to-consumer is going, or pretty much every business that's selling direct-to-consumer is going to be advertising for Black Friday, Cyber Monday. They're going to be trying to get those customers' dollars during a very limited window of time. And so advertising costs are going to be really, really expensive the closer we get to the sale. So if you've got a product where that holiday gift market isn't the best fit for you, and you think you will have better luck maybe with a big sale of your own later in the year, there might be an argument to be made for, run a little Black Friday, Cyber Monday sale. Don't invest too heavily into your marketing efforts now, and instead spend this time planning out that larger sale that's more unique to your business later in the year, and be prepared to ramp up your ad spend prior to that sale when there's way less competition in the marketplace, because not everyone's scrambling to get their Black Friday, Cyber Monday ads in front of people. So that's a bit of a hot take, but that's a strategy that can work really well if you think that you can get your audience to engage with a sale that's not tied to such a well-known cultural event as Black Friday, Cyber Monday. A great example of this would be Prime Day. Amazon just invented Prime Day. They've got these huge sales. I look forward to Prime Day every year. I've got a Prime subscription. We buy a ton of stuff for the business through Amazon Prime. And so when Prime Day rolls around, I'm excited to go, ooh, am I going to be able to pick up some new camera gear that we can use on our next film shoot? And that's something that they just invented because they're a large enough business with a large enough following that they were able to say, yep, we're doing this big sale and we're going to push people into it, and we're going to leverage the size of our audience to turn that into an event out of nothing. So that's kind of a pie in the sky example. I'm not saying everyone is Amazon, because most businesses clearly aren't. They're one of the biggest businesses on the planet. But if you're well known in your industry, if you've got a dedicated audience, if you've got a presence on social media and people are engaging with your content on a regular basis, these are signs that your audience has your business in mind. And if that sounds like it's applicable to you, then there might be an argument for building your own sale at a time of year when you're not competing for ad spend the same way you are during Black Friday, Cyber Monday. And that might be a really good move if your business, like you say, isn't great for holiday gifts. So lots of different approaches to answering that question. I hope one of those resonated with you and you found that useful. I'm going to go ahead and dive into our next question. And once again, for anyone just joining us, we are answering questions on the Shopify forum, which I have previously linked in the Twitch chat. We're on specifically the 2H Media AMA board, set up for these live streams, which we run in partnership with Shopify. Next question, I am going to have very limited answers for. I'm going to acknowledge it and then move on pretty quickly, I think, because this question is TikTok how-tos, which is not my area of expertise. Can you explain how TikTok works with Shopify in easy steps? I see the question. I'd love to be able to answer it. Not a TikTok expert, unfortunately. Broadly speaking, social media, it's a great way to build an audience if you're really locked in there, drive traffic to your store. In terms of a TikTok Shopify integration, it's not something I've ever set up, so I'm not going to pretend that I can answer it meaningfully. I wish I could, but also not super Black Friday, Cyber Monday related anyways, so I'm not going to spend too much time on that, but wanted to acknowledge the question. Let's dive into our next question. High internet traffic, low conversions, need expert insight and optimizing landing pages, retargeting, and Klaviyo flows for Black Friday, Cyber Monday. Oh, we're off to a good start. We're trying to tackle a lot of different things here. So let's dive into this question by Gavin M. I run Pro Audio Reserve, an online retailer specializing in high-ticket professional audio gear. RME, Apogee, Antelope, and Telefunken are brands I sell. I've been running Google Ads and remarketing campaigns for a few weeks now. Across all campaigns, I'm at 73,000 impressions, 107 clicks, and $483 spent month to date, which has resulted in 4 sales so far. My Shopify store and product pages are fully built out, and I'm using Klaviyo for email flows, welcome, abandoned cart, etc. However, I'm seeing low open rates on abandoned cart emails and poor conversion from add to cart to purchase. My remarketing ads and Google Shopping have a solid click-through rate, but people drop off right before checkout. I'm not sure if the issue is landing page design, add to page alignment, or email follow-up structure. Questions. Based on this data, what specific landing page optimizations, retargeting ad adjustments, or Klaviyo flow improvements would you recommend to increase conversion from add to cart to purchase before Black Friday, Cyber Monday? And then they've listed the site for reference, which we won't visit, and landing page for my most viewed product in the month so far, which we're also not going to dive into on this stream. First things first. 73,000 impressions. Google Ads and remarketing. Okay, so the ad has been seen 73,000 times, 107 clicks. So I'm going to assume that's 107 clicks on the ad. So that's 107 visitors to the site, which has resulted in 4 sales. So if I do some quick napkin math on that, 4 sales from 107 visits is a 3.7% conversion rate based on my napkin math. If I got that wrong, feel free to correct me in chat, but going back to my high school math, I believe that's right. 4 sales out of 107 visitors, that's a little bit better than 3% conversion rate. So we're really into the nitty gritty of optimization at this point. As I mentioned earlier in the stream, in an e-commerce store, we are typically aiming for between a 1% and a 3% conversion rate. So if you're exceeding a 3% conversion rate, then that's putting you in the top percentile of Shopify stores. You're already absolutely killing it. I don't know that we're realistically going to be able to significantly improve those numbers. So take everything I say with a grain of salt, knowing that like that conversion rate's already quite good. And, with only $483 spent on ads, that's a pretty small ad spend. And that was month to date, posted yesterday. So we are about halfway through the month. You're still looking at $1,000 or less in ad spend for the month. Those are really respectable numbers. If we're seeing 4 sales on $483 in ad spend, I'd love to know what the average cart size is to know how valuable those sales are. But nothing about the numbers I'm seeing is particularly red flaggy to me. Seeing that we've had 107 visitors to a website and 4 sales, that's a great conversion rate. Maybe the ads could be refined to increase the number of clicks on the ads themselves and drive more traffic to the site. At the conversion rate you're already getting, you might just need to push more visitors in order to do more sales. That said, the question was landing page optimizations, retargeting ad adjustments, Klaviyo flow improvements. So I'm not going to be able to get to the retargeting ad adjustments without seeing the ad campaigns themselves, nor am I specifically a Google Ads expert. If you were to reach out to our company for some help with this, I'd be connecting you with someone at our company who is more focused on the ads themselves. Excuse me. And even then, they would need to see the campaigns in order to make specific recommendations. Klaviyo flow improvements, likewise. I can make give some general advice. Knowing what to improve kind of depends on what you're doing now. Improvements to increase conversion from add to cart to purchase is going to be tough. So the question is, how do I make my landing pages better? And how do I make my email flows better to get the people who added the product to the cart to actually complete the purchase? And in order to answer that question, I really need to understand why people are adding to the cart but not completing checkout. Usually, in my experience, this comes down to one of 2 things. Number 1, there can just be an issue with your checkout process. It could absolutely be broken in certain locations. So I would start looking at your customer data. If you can find the addresses that those abandoned carts entered, I would check to make sure you have shipping rights for all of those addresses that are configured and working correctly. One thing I've had to do in the past is go through the Shopify checkout on the site several times using different shipping information. So punching in addresses in different states, different provinces, different countries, and make sure that I'm not hitting a wall during the checkout process because there's no shipping rate available and I'm not actually able to check out. On a technical level, that's one of the things to look for is the checkout process working for everyone? I know it's working for some people because you've got sales, but that doesn't necessarily indicate to me that it's working in every shipping region. So that would be something to check out. If that's all working correctly, if everyone is technically able to complete a purchase, the other thing I would look to is your shipping rates. Typically speaking, the most common reason we see people abandoning their carts is because they were surprised by a shipping cost. There's a few different ways to tackle this depending on the specifics of your store. So often, shipping rates are just too high. In Canada, there's a real problem. Shipping rates in our country are really difficult to swallow as consumers and e-commerce stores. Canada has really expensive shipping. If you're US based or UK based or anywhere in the world, I'm not sure what the shipping rates are like in your region. So your experience might differ from mine, but it's tricky to pass your shipping rates on to your consumers, and they can be surprised by the shipping rate when they're in the cart. And that is one of the most common reasons we see people abandoning their carts. One of the ways to try to solve this problem is you might find you have better results lowering your shipping rates or offering free shipping and increasing the price of your products. You'd have to take a look at what your shipping rates are like and the price of your products to see if that's viable for you. Another thing that can work as sort of an in-between step is offering free shipping on orders above X amount. That's a very popular option. So, spend $100 or more, get free shipping. Flat rate shipping on orders over $50. Like, there's different ways you can try to make those shipping rates easier for people to stomach. And maybe you already have that in place. And this is where I'm coming back to the landing page optimizations and Klaviyo flow improvements. If you already have those things in place, you might not be doing a good enough job communicating to your audience. All the time, we see businesses that have free shipping on orders over X amount, and they're not telling anyone what that amount is clearly enough. One of the easiest things you can do is just put an announcement bar at the top of your webpage that says free shipping on orders over $75. Encourage people to get their baskets up to those sizes, make it easy for people, and then they're more likely to check out once they hit that point that gives them free shipping. So that's one of the main things I would look to in terms of improvements, is just make sure that whatever you're doing for your shipping, you've got an option that is going to encourage a conversion, and then make sure that that is clearly advertised somewhere on the landing page. So if there is a conversion problem, the shipping rates are one of the key things I would look to, since people are abandoning carts. But broadly speaking, based on the numbers, 4 sales in 107 clicks, those are great numbers already in terms of like what you can expect from an e-commerce store. You're already killing it. So I'm not convinced just from the data that I've seen at face value that there is a conversion problem on the website. You might just need to push more volume. Sort of final thoughts on this in terms of improving the Klaviyo flow without knowing what you're doing already. One of the best recommendations I can make is to offer an incentive. So a fairly typical abandoned cart reminder flow would be 2 or 3 emails. The first one just being a, hey, you forgot this. Trying to push people back to the cart at all, because you may win some sales by just directing people back to the website. And then if that doesn't work, your follow-up email could include a coupon code to really try to push people past the checkout. Making this conversation more Black Friday, Cyber Monday specific. If you're, depending on the industry you're in, the type of products you sell, if you're not offering free shipping to begin with, you might try free shipping as part of your Black Friday, Cyber Monday promotion. If you can send out some email blasts to some of your past customers on some of those abandoned carts and say, free shipping during Black Friday, Cyber Monday, that might be exactly what you need to get some of those people to return to your store and actually complete that checkout now that that roadblock to making a purchase has been eliminated. So those are some of the main things I would look at. But yeah, 4 sales with 107 clicks, that's already a great conversion rate. So my instinct is that the conversions aren't necessarily what I'd be looking at. I'd be looking at trying to increase your volume overall, which might mean more ad spend, might mean some search engine optimization, might just generally trying to get more eyes on the website so we can take advantage of that great conversion rate that you've already got. Great question from Gavin M. I'm going to go back to my Shopify AMA board and look for some more questions. And I see one new question in the AMA. I also see we've gotten a question in the Twitch chat, which I'll try to get to at the end of this stream if I've got some time left over. Just a reminder for anyone who's new to this, best way to get your questions is to pop over to the Shopify AMA board, which I've linked in the Twitch chat, because I am prioritizing answering questions on the forums over questions in the Twitch chat. Our next question comes from Grace Main Merchant, and I will share screen so we can look at this together. Grace Main Merchant asks, drowning in the Google Marketing Suite. I'm relatively new to SEO and use of the Google Marketing Suite, or whatever it's called now. Is there a particular set of resources you might suggest for someone learning the Google products for the first time? Can you speak to any advantages between using Shopify's built-in conversion tracking versus Google Tag Manager with manually added tags? Great question. Very much in the weeds. So, broadly speaking, if you are an e-commerce owner, if you're an entrepreneur and you're starting an e-commerce store, and you are not already an SEO expert, SEO is probably not the best use of your time. This is a fairly steep learning curve. I myself am not even an SEO expert. I work with an SEO expert at our company who does a great job. SEO is a really slow burn way to improve traffic to your website. It can be super effective if you're already running ads and if you are already doing a lot of things right. It is not a super effective use of your time if you're just getting started and your resources are limited. The only time I would ever recommend a business owner in the e-commerce space do their own SEO is if you are an SEO expert with a background in SEO who's decided to launch an e-commerce store. If you've worked professionally in SEO for 20 years and you know what you're doing and it's second nature to you, by all means, take on that work yourself. For everyone else, it's just going to be way better uses of your time. Even as an activity to work on at all, we don't recommend SEO to businesses that aren't already spending on ads. I've got a link on screen right now. So our SEO packages start from 1,000 Canadian dollars a month. In terms of an overall marketing budget, that is not a massive amount of money. Compared to the time you're going to spend getting this right, it doesn't make a lot of sense for you to spend those resources doing it yourself when there's affordable options out there. And even saying that, pointing at our $1,000 a month option for SEO, that's a really bite-sized expense if you're already spending appropriately on ads and seeing results from those. So if you look at that and you say, $1,000 a month, that's a lot for my business for the stage I'm at right now. I can maybe scrounge that together, but it's going to be a tight expense. Then I would say, are you running ads? Because if you're not running ads, I would rather see you spend that money on ads than SEO to get started. Get that up and running, get consistent traffic to your website, and then by the time your ads are rocking and driving a lot of traffic, that SEO purchase is going to seem a lot more manageable. And if you're saying, well, I'm really going to struggle to find that $1,000 a month, period. I can't put it into ads or SEO. Then I'd say, okay, the stage your business is at, you do have to leverage time over money. So you've got the right idea doing the work yourself, but I think you're spending that work in the wrong areas. Just checking the Twitch stream to make sure we're still up and running. It looks like I'm having an issue with my internet, so I'm just waiting to make sure that comes back on before I continue answering the question. Okay, it looks like we're back, which is great. So I'll continue answering the question. So for this question in particular, I started off my answer not really answering the question, because the question is, how do I get better SEO? And my answer, how do I get better at doing SEO myself? And my answer is, you really shouldn't be trying to get better at doing SEO yourself, because there's going to be better uses of your time. If you're at a stage where you can pay someone to do your SEO, that's going to make way more sense than trying to learn it yourself. If you are not at a stage where you can pay someone to do your SEO, there are other better uses for your time. So I would go back to some of the things I mentioned earlier, trying to develop a local audience through trade shows and direct marketing, direct sales, going and meeting people in your community and getting the word out there about what you're doing with your business, trying to build a social media following. It's going to be way faster, easier, more effective to build a presence on SEO on social media than trying to do your own SEO as a small business. So is there a particular set of resources I would suggest for someone learning the Google products for the first time? If you are absolutely adamant about doing your own SEO, learning to do it yourself, and like spending your time there, I'd be looking for a Udemy course. That's where we go for a lot of our learning if we want to pick up a new skill set. They go on sale all the time, so they can be very, very inexpensive. That would be where I would go to look. But again, I strongly urge you, look for other areas that you can spend your time, because you're probably going to get better results. Get your business to a point where it makes sense to outsource the SEO and then outsource it. Because as an e-commerce owner, there are just better, more important things you can do with your time than focus on the nitty-gritty of how your website is running. Second half of the question, any advantage between using Shopify's built-in conversion tracking versus Google Tag Manager with manually added tags? We use both, is the short answer. Both are great. They have different purposes. Shopify's built-in tracking is fantastic. It's intuitive. It doesn't require any extra setup. It comes out of the box. So if you're a new e-commerce store, absolutely rely on Shopify's built-in conversion tracking. It's great. It'll give you really good insight into your store. That's the primary one that we walk through when we're, exploring e-commerce sites that we've never worked with before. Google Tag Manager, if you're new to this and you're just getting started, try to get it set up as best you can. It doesn't need to be perfect. Getting the Google property set up so you can start capturing some historic data is a great first step before bringing in an agency down the line to actually help you with your ads. They're going to be, whatever agency that is, they're going to be really thankful that you have that historic data. It does not need to be perfect. You do not need to become a Google Tag Manager expert in order to get going on Shopify. So my advice would be set up all of your Google properties as basically as you can so that they're on the store and they're collecting data, and then set that aside until you're ready to work with an expert and just focus on the Shopify analytics for now, because they are intuitive, easy to work with, and they're going to be set up correctly out of the box because they come automatically with your Shopify subscription. Broadly, that's my advice for new Shopify stores is focus, advantages between Shopify's built-in conversion tracking versus Google Tag Manager. The specific ins and outs of which one's better for what get pretty nitty-gritty. Broadly speaking, you're fine to use the Shopify ones. You'll get great information out of them. Just make sure you've got those Google properties hooked up, because your advertising partner will thank you for that down the line when you actually start working with an agency. Broadly speaking, as an e-commerce owner, your job is not to be an expert in all things digital marketing. Your job is to run your store. And there's a lot of things that are going to demand your time. Running an e-commerce store typically involves running a lot of people. You're going to find it's a really uphill battle if you're trying to do all of your own web development, graphic design, advertising, search engine optimization, videography, social media management. Like every single one of these different hats that you need to wear is going to make it more difficult for you to go from zero to profitable. And so you just need to learn as a new e-commerce store owner to be really mercenary about which of these things are important for me to focus on right now, and what can I put off or outsource, with the goal being to outsource as much as you can, as early as you can, when it makes financial sense for your business, because that's the only way for this business to be sustainable. And again, as an early e-commerce store owner, my recommendation is to leverage your time rather than your money, because you've probably got more time than money available, and leverage that time in ways that are going to have the most immediate impact on your business. And typically, that means seeking traditional sales opportunities, because you need to focus on activities that are going to have a short-term impact on revenue in order to open up opportunity for you to focus on other things. I know we kind of dove into a tangent answering the question. So the question was new to SEO and the use of Google marketing, and any recommendations on how to learn the platforms, and hey, should I be using Shopify's conversion tracking or Google Tag Manager with manually added tags? And trying to summarize my answer, if you're absolutely set on learning these platforms in depth, I would be going out looking for a Udemy course. That's how we typically learn new software in our business. Shopify's conversion tracking is great to get you started, as long as you have your tag manager set up at all so that it can start capturing historic data, which is going to be useful to an advertising partner down the line. And then really take a think about whether learning these platforms is the best use of your time as the owner of a new e-commerce store. But great technical question from Grace May Merchant. So thank you very much for sending that our way. I'm just popping back to the AMA board and looking for more questions. I'm not seeing anything new come in, which is great. It means we've answered all of the questions that were posted to the board. So now I will turn my attention to the Twitch chat and look to wrapping up this stream. For anyone who isn't comfortable with the forum, wants to get their questions in on Twitch, now's the time to do it. I'm going to be spending the next little bit of time answering questions directly from the Twitch chat because we are we're through the questions in the forum. We got a little bit of time left in the stream. If I don't get many questions through this Twitch chat, then I will end up just closing out the stream early. I do see a question from Gil Herman. New store, how do I set up for taxes? Shopify makes this relatively easy. The big thing is most of the work that goes into this happens off of Shopify, off platform. You're going to need to get any relevant tax numbers for your markets that you're selling in. So for Canada, we need to go and get an HST number through the Canada Revenue Agency. Once you have your tax numbers in hand, once you've got your paperwork done, you've got those tax documents in order, if you go into the settings of your Shopify store, there's a section for taxes. Shopify makes it relatively easy to actually set up your taxes. And I'll see if I can log into one of our Shopify stores real quick, not one that's a client one, and just show you where those settings are without diving into it in too much detail. And then if anyone else is in the chat and wants to get their question answered, or even just has some final thoughts about everything we talked about today, if anyone's just excited to be here, love to hear from you in the chat. If you've got a question, love to hear from you in the chat. If I don't get any more questions, I'm going to be wrapping up in a few more minutes. So this is your time. If you've got questions that haven't been answered, get them in now. Okay. So going back to sharing screen. This is the Shopify store for SprintPoint, which is one of our companies where we give away free small business resources and paid physical resources. We're quite proud of what we've done with this store. Take a brief moment to show off the store itself before I actually dive into answering the question in the back end. The SprintPoint is our strategy tools for growing businesses, and most of what we offer here is free resources that you might find useful if you're still in the planning phase for your business. We offer templates for user personas, business model canvases, customer journey map. The brand colors quick sheet is one of my absolute favorite resources that we offer. It's a great way to communicate your vision for your company to an agency if they're working on some branding projects for you. Really great stuff in here, all for free. And then if printing out your own resources isn't your style, we also offer physical resources that you can buy through the store at pretty affordable prices. We haven't slapped a business sort of tax on these as some companies do. We could probably charge a lot more for some of these, considering we're selling to a business audience rather than a consumer audience. but we've priced them what we think is fairly. So we've got a pocket business journal where you can actually lay out your full business plan and all of your ideas as you're building out your business. Tear pads with that same brand colors activity I mentioned. Flashcards with brand values to help you lock down what your brand's all about. Really happy with what we've done with this company. But anyways, the point is, here's the back end of that Shopify store, which I am allowed to show off because this is one of ours, not a client one. The question was, how do I set up for taxes? The first thing you have to do is go get your tax numbers from the relevant government for whatever market you're selling in. Once you've got that in hand, Shopify makes it really easy. It's in the settings. Open that up. There's a section for taxes and duties. And everything you need to set up, you can do in here. If I go into Canada, basic tax, there's going to be options in here for setting up my sales tax, collect a new region. So everything is in the taxes and duties section of the back end of your Shopify store. Once you have those tax documents from your government, it's relatively easy to set that up. If you're struggling with that, that's something that any e-commerce agency should be able to help you do. A freelancer should be more than capable of helping you do that as well. But that first step is really the tough part, getting those tax documents from your government. If you can figure out getting the tax documents from your government, you can probably figure out punching them into your Shopify store once you get to that taxes and duties tab. But that's where it is in the back end of Shopify. That is it. That is all. I'll go back to the Shopify 2H Media AMA board one more time, see if any more questions have come in. It doesn't look like it. So again, I will look back to the Twitch chat. I see a question in the Twitch chat from David Dia XYZ. For Black Friday, Cyber Monday, do you have any recommendation for most effective type of offer? Example, % off versus BOGO. Great question, David. The short answer is the most impactful sale you can offer. What's going to stand out and resonate with your audience? It is a tough time of year to compete in terms of sales because some of the sales that are out there are really aggressive. Offering 5% off is not going to excite anyone at a time when you are competing with everyone else's sales. If you can offer really deep % off discounts, we're talking like 30% plus in an industry where people have high demand for your product, that's going to be really effective. So like the higher you can make those discounts, the better it's going to do in terms of conversion. But like anything below at least like a 25% discount, you're going to have trouble standing out compared to some of the other sales that are available right now. If you don't have the margins to support like a 30% plus discount, I would be looking at more creative options. BOGO can be great. Free shipping can be great if you're in a jurisdiction that allows it. Raffles can be a really impactful option. You know, enter. I saw one online store. You know, buy a backpack, have a chance to win a graphics card. It was a huge promotion. So like creative things like that are going to really excite people. It's tough. It's tough to stand out during Black Friday, Cyber Monday. There's no one specific type of sale that's going to outperform another. BOGO can be effective if your product is either very giftable or something that people might want multiples of. And if that's not a sale that you're offering on a regular basis. Yeah, for fashion category, very high % off can cheapen the brand, hence it's a challenge to stand out. Absolutely, that's a concern. And it's one of those things that make Black Friday, Cyber Monday a challenge. I would take a look at your competitors. I'm curious who you are competing with. Obviously other fashion brands. Getting a feel for what they're doing is important because you need to understand where you fit into the market compared to others in your industry. If you're trying to maintain the value of the brand and not offer a very high percentage off. I've seen people do really creative things with their sales. Like, I've seen people run big charitable promotions during Black Friday, Cyber Monday, where they don't want to cheapen the value of the brand. And so they say, hey, instead of giving you a deep discount, we're going to donate X percentage of purchases during the sale to a charity. We picked a specific one. Here's some information about that charity. Here's what we're doing. And then stick to that. So that's an incentive that can stand out from the crowd because, it's not just another discount in a sea of discounts, but so it's interesting. It's potentially meaningful to people. There can be a lot of value there. Like I say, contests that can be tied in depending on your jurisdiction. Buy one, get one. It's tough to say whether or not that's going to devalue the brand compared to its steep discount. Again, this is where I'd be looking at what your competition is doing and just try to get a feel for how your market behaves on the whole. Because part of the risk with buy one, get one is discount stores and like off-the-rack clothing stores in the mall run BOGO sales all the time. And so I would be concerned that a buy one, get one is specifically going to come across as a discount brand move in the eyes of your consumers. And so, again, this is where more creative options can be effective if you don't want to offer those deep discounts. Either a contest of some kind or a charitable donation promotion of some kind can be great. Yeah, I mean, does that sort of answer the question? I mean, in terms of percent off versus BOGO, those are the things I would be considering, and then maybe look at some more creative options is my short answer. Does that answer your question? Excellent. David says, yes, thanks. That answers the question. That's awesome. And thank you very much to David and Gil Herman for participating in the chat. It's great to have some of you interacting with me. I see we've got quite a few viewers still in the chat. I'd love to hear from some of the others in there, even if just to say hi. I'll give it another minute or so to see if any last-minute questions sneak in. And then if not, we'll end up calling this a day. Give you your afternoon back. Call those out of the stream a little early. Another question from David. How soon should the offer start? Example, right before Thanksgiving or... great question. There is an argument to be made for starting your sale early. And this is something to play with and experiment with over time. My prediction is that we will see the window on Black Friday, Cyber Monday sales getting wider and wider. And part of that is companies chasing the less expensive advertising window. The closer we get to the sale, the more expensive your ad spend is going to be, because so many more businesses are going to be in competition for that, for their customers' eyes, customers' wallets. If you can get people spending in before Black Friday, Cyber Monday kicks off proper, you might see a higher success. So, like, I would sneak it a little earlier every year if I were you. Try to open it up, 1 day sooner, 2 days sooner, and just get in front of those customers a little bit before they've started the spending, a little bit before the ads skyrocket in price. Keep creeping it up. There's ways you can also approach this with a little more nuance, depending on how locked in your audience is. If you have a super engaged audience and you've done a really good job preparing for this well in advance, one thing that can be really effective is a rotating sale. So if you have different deals at each day of your sale or each week of your sale, you can create scarcity reaction in your audience, where they've got a fear of missing out. So there is an argument to be made for doing a sales schedule where you say, we're launching our Black Friday, Cyber Monday a week early. And the deals that we're going to be running week 1 are on a different collection of products than the deals we're offering week 2. You may only have one collection of products that you've been planning to put on sale. You could split that in half and do one half week 1, one half week 2. And you might see that increasing your sales because people are afraid of missing out on those deals. In order for something like that to be effective, you need to have a really locked in audience, though. So you just need to make sure you've got consistent communication channels that people are really engaging with, whether that be your email marketing, your social media. If you've got an audience that's really engaged with your brand, doing like a rotating sale like that could be really effective. But again, either way, I would start the earlier the better in some ways. I mean, don't go crazy. You launch your sale like a month early. No one's thinking about Black Friday, Cyber Monday yet. But you can absolutely start creeping up when that sale starts year over year, because I predict that the whole industry is going to just continue expanding that. We had Black Friday before we had Cyber Monday. Now I see sales the full week of Black Friday and then last minute sales coming in on Cyber Monday. It's really shifted, and I predict that it's going to continue shifting because it's a competitive time of year. Everyone's marketing. Ad costs skyrocket during the event, and so there's a ton of value in getting traffic to your site prior to a real crunch time. Hope that answered the question. We are 20 past 12, so I'm going to give it another minute or so, see if any other questions come in the chat, and then if not, I'm going to wish everyone a happy Tuesday. Right on. Not seeing anything coming in the chat, which is all good, so I hope I've answered all of your questions. If you have any questions that you are not comfortable asking in a group setting, I would encourage you to head to our website, and I'll drop a link in chat in a moment, and book a free strategy session with one of our experts. We will take the time to learn about your business, answer your burning questions, and develop a plan that makes sense for you. If that sounds impactful, then hit us up, book a strategy session. We'd love to meet with you. You can contact us through the contact page on our website, or you can book a meeting directly. I will drop a Calendly link in a moment, which you can use to book a strategy session with one of our experts, which would either be myself or my business partner Matthew. We'd be happy to answer your questions in a one-on-one format. If this live stream chat doesn't feel comfortable enough for you, give me just a moment to find the right link. More times. General strategy call. Copy link. There we go. I've just dropped a Calendly link in chat. So again, if you want a free strategy session with someone from our company, we'd be more than happy to chat with you, learn about your business, answer your questions, and help you figure out where to go next, what to do next. Thank you very much to everyone who's joined me today, especially those of you who dropped questions in the Shopify forum. I love getting the chance to answer all of those live right here on Twitch in collaboration with Shopify. I've been Aaron Murch from 2H Media. I'll be doing this again every month for the foreseeable future. So I am looking forward to chatting with you again soon. Thank you so much for your time. Everyone have a wonderful Tuesday. See you next time.